All right, guys, here we are. Another week before the season starts. Another week of a SportsGrid Spike Week crossover podcast. I am joined, as always, by Davis Mattek. You can find him on Twitter at Davis Mattek. You can find me on Twitter at Erik Beimfohr. We are two of the sharps that actually just use our name on all of these sites instead of these geniuses that use their AIM usernames or whatever it is on all the sites. But we were talking just real quick before the show. This is the longest grind I feel like I've ever had for the fantasy football season and the draft season, and so it really starts to get robotic and almost like you're just like questioning things to question things at this point. But the one thing that is kind of changing is we're getting some of these quarterback situations ironed out. So this morning, we're recording this on Friday morning, and Jameis Winston just got named the starter, which I think was probably the favorite. I did go back and forth a little bit throughout the offseason on the Taysom Jameis thing, but I think we really started to see that it was probably going to be Jameis, and then maybe an upset. I don't even know. The other day, Teddy Bridgewater got named the Denver starting quarterback. So we are getting a little bit of a shakeup in some of those things and getting a little more clarity. So that's the one big thing I think that maybe is changing some of these drafts. Davis, I don't know how you're thinking about like those two situations specifically.
Yeah, and I played the Saints one wrong. I was doing Taysom as a third quarterback a lot. And I guess the theory behind it is still kind of half true, which is if you play Taysom, you're still you were drawing live to him randomly having an 11-point week or whatever, because he rushed for a touchdown, or they do some, dipshit package where both the quarterbacks are out there and Taysom, does a crack block and catches a touchdown or whatever. But I mean, I guess that what became pretty obvious when they both started playing is Taysom is just not a good quarterback. He got good results for 4 games last year. And last year they were also a little bit different of a team. He got some games with Michael Thomas. They had Jared Cook on the team. Now it's like they got Juwan Johnson at tight end. Traquan is not even back yet. He's still dealing with this leg injury. So, it really does feel like if they are going to be good, it's just going to be because Jameis actually, kind of lives up to what, I mean, we're year 7 of Jameis in the NFL now, I think, and we're still right. year 6, maybe, I think, actually. And we're still trying to figure out if Jameis is any good or not.
Which is kind of hilarious, right? That like normally, and maybe it's just he was in a time where we did give some of these guys a little bit of a longer leash. I mean, Andy Dalton is still like probably a starting quarterback in the league. But I feel like now it's like even when you're the number 1 overall pick, year 7, and you haven't figured it out, especially when you're the kind of guy that Jameis is, the 30 intercept, like everybody is obsessed with the interception thing, right? Yeah. If you throw a ton of picks or you make, and his are particularly like meme worthy, right? Spin around and he looks ridiculous doing it. But, that's like a thing, right? It's like pass protection for running backs. Like if you miss a pass block, it's like your career's over, and so that's the thing with Jameis. So it's funny that he's still kind of getting these shots, which I do think kind of proves that he's pretty darn talented, actually. Right. He may be an idiot, but he's pretty darn talented. I don't know if I would change it. I did. So I went through the full roller coaster of emotions on the Saints quarterback situation. I was drafting Jameis very early because I'm, 20th round. Okay, whatever. I drafted Thomas or Kamara, or I need a third quarterback. I was doing the Jameis thing. And then like you, I kind of had the revelation, like, what is Jameis really ever going to win me? And even if he wins the job, like I still am not like excited about drafting Jameis really right now, especially with Michael Thomas hurt. I just don't think he's really winning you anything, but Taysom could have. And to your point, in best ball, especially, there was potential that like, even if he doesn't get the job, like maybe he still plays a little bit. He might sneak some weeks where he even outscores Jameis, even if Jameis is the quote unquote starter. So I'm fine having kind of played it how I played it. I didn't go really that hard at this situation. The one thing, I don't know how you treated Kamara. I think he's the biggest
all in.
Yeah. So I will fully admit to being like what I would call, quote unquote underweight on Kamara. I lumped him more into, he's very similar to Zeke and all those guys, him, Henry, right? All those guys were like kind of the same. And so I wasn't prioritizing any of them, and I was prioritizing Kelsey and the receivers a little bit. I have definitely started to realize I think that might have been a mistake just as the offseason has gone on, and definitely with Jameis getting the job and Michael Thomas being out. And I think the offense might be better than I was probably giving it credit for if Marquez Callaway is the second coming of Terrell Owens.
Right.
I do think the offense might be a little bit better. I think what we should actually be talking about is, should Kamara be the second overall pick over Dalvin?
Yeah, and I think that's legitimate. Kamara is my 9th most owned running back. I have him 16% of the time because I take Kamara every time over Henry. I take Kamara every time over Kelsey. I never take Diggs or Tyreek ahead of him. I take Alvin Kamara over Ezekiel Elliott. So you can pretty much, like, if I'm pick 3 through 5, I'm getting him for sure. And if I'm pick 6 or 7, it's like a 30-70 probability of him being there. If someone takes a wide receiver, if someone takes Henry, then I'm pretty much locked in to get him. And he is an auto click for me. I have him projected for a career high in carries, not a career high in targets, but that's more just of a function of how doing season-long projections works. Like it's like, if I give Alvin Kamara 25% target share, he's going to project for more points than Kamara or than CMC, which he might even get. I mean, he could if they, I guess. And the other thing you didn't mention is this: if they're for real about this Tony Jones thing.
Oh yeah.
If that's real, I think that would up Kamara's weekly expected snap share from like 55 to 60 to like 65 to 80%, because Tony Jones is not going to be a guy who like forces his way onto the field, right? Like that's not going to happen. And he would be more of like a pure handcuff. And there's enough smoke here that I think there's some fire. We got that report from the Saints beats, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, that they were thinking about Latavius as a cut. Sean Payton says that Tony Jones is the second running back. Tony Jones played all the snaps with Jameis Winston in the preseason. Like I think that they're probably telling the truth right now. Doesn't mean that holds over the course of the season. Like they might get to week 4 and, Latavius might start to look better, or they might just get sick of playing Tony Jones and it could swing back. But I think that everything that is coming out of the Saints stuff right now is basically telling me you should be drafting Kamara pretty aggressively.
This was, and I got booted for just a second, but I think I got the gist of the Tony Jones thing. I couldn't agree more. I think as someone who was lighter on Kamara for most of the season, like I don't have zero Kamara. I'm not a stone idiot. I mean, I may not be the sharpest, but I'm not that dumb. But I was definitely, mixing in other guys in his tier. Like I think how you played it has clearly been the right way to play it, 3 through 5, even 2 through 5. Like I know some people already kind of had him in that mix there with Dalvin. I was playing some of this uncertainty poorly. Like, I mean, I know the offensive line is good, so that was not a concern. I know Kamara's role was fairly stable, but I didn't take into the fact that like, okay, maybe Jameis is going to play pretty well and just outright win this job. I was playing more of the uncertainty factor. Like, okay, because if Taysom does win this job, I did think that was really bad for Kamara. Like I did not want third overall Kamara if Taysom is the starting quarterback, but I also didn't play this Tony Jones thing. Like Tony Jones is not good. No one will ever be able to convince me that Tony Jones is
he's not.
But he's probably not an NFL level player. But the fact that he might get that number 2 job shows you that Latavius isn't either. It just might be over for Latavius, which means he has the least competition and the most responsibility on an offense that he's ever had before. Right? Jameis needs him. And they don't have Michael Thomas. Like Marquez Callaway looks like he's better than Michael Thomas, but we're also, let's be realistic about an offense with Marquez Callaway. Who knows what's going on with Traquan? Deontay Harris, I think, got a DUI, so he might not even start the.
He did. He is. I believe it's confirmed he's missing at least 2 games.
So it's Lil Jordan Humphrey, I guess, is going to play the third wide receiver. Troutman probably sucks, and he's hurt. So it's
and even Nick Vannett, their starting tight end, Nick Vannett, got hurt. He would be like the blocking tight end. So it's going to be Juwan Johnson. And then I think they have another guy, Garrett Gentry maybe is who it is. I'll go look right now, but it's no one good.
But I mean, so like I was thinking, okay, I called it earlier this year, like the Saints offense, we've been so locked in on what they've been with Breeze, even like before Thomas, even like before Kamara, right? We were so locked in on what this offense was. And I think even as we saw as Breeze really started to deteriorate, it wasn't quite the same, but we could still bank on the Kamara and Thomas thing. And I was like, man, there's a lot of uncertainty here. This could be like a total house of cards situation for the Saints offense, where like they're finally like not talented enough to kind of overcome some of the shortcomings that they have. And now I'm starting to feel like it couldn't possibly have been more wrong. And I've flipped to wanting to be under on Kamara to, I think every time I get the number 2 pick, I should be taking Kamara now, especially because it helps me up I literally did it this morning. Actually, I got the number 2 pick on DraftKings and I took Kamara because I think the floor is definitely very clearly there. But also if what you projected, if he gets the most carries of his career, and we know what the target ceiling is,
yeah,
right? And I guess we know what the target floor is. Like you said, you can't project him for that. But I mean, he could be CMC. Like they could finally be like, okay, I know we don't want to play this guy 100% of snaps, but we need to play the guy 85 because our offense just can't do it without him. Right? Like Latavius was good enough to play those 30 to 40% of the snaps and get them by to rest Kamara. I don't know that you can do that with Tony Jones, especially when Michael Thomas isn't there. So I think Kamara might be like the biggest winner over the last, which is weird because he was, the 4th overall pick or something. But I think if you were like me, I think you probably need to be trying to rectify that Kamara situation.
Yeah, and because I think that his upside went from he's got to score 21 touchdowns again to be the guy. Like he's got to just run insanely hot on touchdowns to there's absolutely no reason that the Saints can't use him like Christian McCaffrey. But that's basically what we're saying is that, I mean, would anyone even argue that Alvin Kamara is less talented than McCaffrey? I feel like most people would say he's better. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's a controversial opinion and maybe it's not. But our thought would basically be, well, this is really probably the only season of his career. Like, I don't imagine that they'll do this again next year, that it would be an organizational plan. But this would be the one time for Alvin Kamara to get 250 carries and 100 receptions. Like, if it's going to happen for him ever, it will happen this year.
Yeah, I'm just remembering, what was it? So this is back when Jameis was with the Bucs, and I think Jameis, did he lose the job to Fitzmagic? Because it was week 1, if you remember. The Bucs played the Saints. I'll never forget it for DFS because Kamara dropped like 50 fantasy points or something. But I can't remember if it was back in like the Ingram days or.
Well, I know that was 2019, or wait, maybe it was 2018 week 1. 2018 week 1, 48-40. Jameis was suspended that year.
Yep, I remember now. Because like Evans went nuts. And that game was obviously, 48-40. It was, I remember it for DFS purposes. But Kamara was it. I mean, they did bank on him. Like I said, I can't remember what the situation was, but going in, we were like, oh man, this is finally the time Kamara's going to get those touches, and he basically did. They built the offense around him in that game, and he went absolutely nuts. And I keep having visions of that. Not having enough Kamara, I'm like, oh my God, if they do this for 17 games, like he will outscore CMC, which sounds absurd, but it's in the range of outcomes, and it's not in the range of outcomes for anybody else, right? Like we talk about Gibson, we talk about CEH, we talk about all those guys. If CMC stays healthy and remains CMC, like they're just not really, I guess maybe I can make a case for CEH, like just because of the Chiefs. But even then, we're drawn really, really thin because of just how much work CMC gets. It's in the range for Kamara. And so I think, like I said, he's the big winner. But let's pivot to the Broncos. What about the Teddy thing? What are you doing? Are you bumping anybody? Are you bumping? I talked to Siege yesterday. He's clearly, because of the Drew Lock thing, he's spinning it. He's out on all the Broncos because they're an idiot franchise, which is fine. But how are you spinning the Broncos?
I'm not really doing anything. It's not like I had a market difference. Like I think I have Teddy for like 0.1 better YPA in the projections. Actually, that's a good reminder. I'm going to go. I'm actually just going to move everything for 17 games for Teddy on my projections, just for simplicity's sake. I actually think it's very low probability that he plays all 17 games. But I guess if my thought was, it's easier to start with Drew Lock, give him a chance, let him flounder, and turn it over to Teddy. It's the opposite move is starting the veteran and then going to the young guy, that felt bizarre to me. I don't really have, I have no insight on, what is going on with, their organizational structure or whatever. I'm not doing anything though. I'm not moving anyone up or down, but I was already really aggressively drafting Jerry Jeudy. Like I was taking Jeudy ahead of Odell, ahead of Robbie, not ahead of T and Chase. But Jeudy is going ahead of Chase now in these drafts because of
it's crazy.
Because of the bad preseason and the, who knows what this like domestic violence Instagram screenshot is for Jamar Chase. Like who knows if anything comes of that. But yeah, I guess maybe you could slightly more aggressively draft Melvin Gordon under the expectation that they're going to be a little bit more competitive early on in the season, and that you're drafting Melvin Gordon for like the first 6 weeks of the season anyways. You're not drafting him for the playoff round. So I guess maybe, you could take Melvin Gordon for sure over James Conner. Like that's probably a decision that lots of those hyper fragile teams are doing. And I think that you could make the argument that Melvin Gordon has a better projection and we can feel more certain about his role than we can with James Conner.
Yeah. Say whatever you want about beats like Benjamin Albright. I do feel like he's pretty plugged into the Broncos. And that was one of his things is he's like, why is everybody so down on Melvin Gordon? And I think we understand, right? It's like you said, it's like the Todd Gurley thing of last year. We've corrected our ideas on these types of older running backs, especially when they have a Javonte Williams behind them. But to that point, what's also to say, like, I'm in on this Broncos team, like as an NFL season take, not even best ball or season long fantasy football. Like I'm totally in, right? Why are we drafting Jerry G that high? Because he's a stud. Why does Noah Fant also go in the 9th or 10th round? Because he's a stud, right? Javonte Williams, stud. KJ Hamler, we just saw what KJ Hamler could do, and he was a superstar prospect from Penn State. And then we have the guy who has been the best out of all of them in the NFL in Cortland Sutton that also goes, in the middle round. So like the offense is absolutely loaded and the defense is pretty darn loaded. So I'm trying to actually use a little bit of Teddy in some of these roster constructions to whether it's 3 quarterback or man, if you draft on DraftKings, you get locked out of quarterback so freaking easily sometimes that having another fallback option like Teddy, I've actually really liked. So I'm pushing a little bit of the Broncos into my teams just to have Teddy as a fallback option. Because look, it's the simple thing of if all these wide receivers and all these Broncos offensive options are really going to be anywhere close to this ADP, right? If Jerry Jeudy is a smash, like I know he's Teddy Bridgewater, but like Teddy outperformed this ADP last year. Even he only threw 16 touchdowns. I don't think he's good, but like as a late round guy, in some best ball stacks, I am going to toss Teddy in a little bit because I like all those other guys. Only other thing on them. What about Sutton? Are you like, that's the narrative. He's the narrative guy, right? If Teddy got the job, Sutton can't win. But it's like, dude, DJ Moore was awesome last year, with Teddy. So what's really the difference?
I guess I don't really know what to make of him. Like Sutton is obviously a guy I've drafted a ton of. My Sutton bags last year were pretty heavy when he had nine PPR points and then tore his ACL. I guess it's it feels like everyone's so excited about Jeudy. People draft, their normal percentage of Fant, and then everyone loves KJ Hamler, right? Everyone and their mom wants to tell you how much KJ Hamler they've been drafting. So it feels like Sutton is, sort of the forgotten one in that ecosystem. And I have a feeling like that could be really bad. Like Sutton could pretty easily be the best wide receiver on this roster, even if Jerry Jeudy has a good season. Because Cortland Sutton's really good. He was a dominant player in college, really, really good as a rookie. And I feel like that's honestly just what it is. And I'm falling victim to it. Like I don't have very much Cortland Sutton. And in 16 games as a rookie with like awful quarterback play, Sutton was really good at age 23. Then age 24 with even worse quarterback play, 11,000 yards and 6 touchdowns with what Brandon Allen started 1 game. Drew Lock started 6 games. Like it was like if you want to look at it from like a market share perspective, he had 1,100 yards. Second on the team was Noah Fant with 560. Like he was like half of the Broncos passing offense. as a 23-year-old. So, I mean, just as I'm saying it to you right now, I'm like making a mental note, like, okay, like do a couple of drafts today and just take Sutton a couple times.
And like you said, he's fallen so much. It works out well because sometimes we get the opposite of this where everybody's on that guy that maybe was undervalued, right? Corey Davis. I never seen any steam like this Corey Davis shit. Like, and I get it. I even said he was undervalued. I had, I don't know, like 11 or 12% Corey Davis or something like that. I was happy with that. But we're going from like 12th or 13th round Corey Davis to like he's going in the 80s now. Like you can't get him in like the 8th round on some in these drafts anymore. Like the Corey Davis steam has gotten out of control, you know, with people not understanding context that Elijah Moore wasn't in there. And maybe Corey Davis is going to be just outright. He's the Stephon Diggs of this year, right? And you know, maybe these people are sharp, but I think it's a little bit silly. Whereas Sutton, everybody's out. You know, no one is seeing this angle, and it's like. He's one of the guys. I think you might have even been the one that said it. I don't know what show it was on, but it was like we could very easily look back on this 2021 season and been like, why the hell was I not draft like Cortland Sutton buried me? Like, why did I not draft 10th round Cortland Sutton? Like, what are we doing here? You know?
I mean, and the thing with to that Corey Davis point, like Corey Davis is the exact wrong type of guy to be chasing up the draft boards. Like Elijah Moore, if we were seeing him playing in the preseason, that would be a guy that I would be chasing up. Jerry Jeudy, right? Guy's crushing it, has this huge pedigree, you know, 6 in the NFL. Like everyone already knows the deal with Jeudy. Like Judy's a guy I'm fine taking the helium on. Like the helium I think is actually good there. Corey Davis feels like bad helium. Like it feels like basically what he's proved is like availability, that like he's been there and he's done his job. And I guess, you know, one of the added utilities of drafting number 1 wide receivers on teams like that is you have way more optionality the rest of your draft because you don't have to reach on a quarterback to stack. Like that is one thing about, okay, you take Cooper, you take Gallup, you take DeAndre Hopkins, you take Stephon Diggs, you know, whoever, you take Mark Andrews, you take Marquise Brown. It's like you don't have optionality in those rounds because the quarterback is already gone. You know, you take Michael Gallup, and you don't have Dak and you didn't take Kyler, like, well, you're out of luck. Like you don't have the week 17 stack. You don't have his quarterback stack. You take Marquise Brown, you know, Lamar is already gone, you know? So I tend to think in that 8, 9, 10 round range, I'm trying to think of like, oh, I'd really like to take Fuller here so I can take Tua, or I'd really like to take Darnell Mooney here so I can get Fields or whatever.
Yeah. I think that has bailed me out on some of these guys, probably like Corey Davis, right? Like if Corey Davis had a quarterback going in the 5th round, I probably wouldn't even have as much as I have of him in the 11th or 12th. I don't even know exactly his old ADP because it's moved up like 4 rounds. But like I use that. I mean, I do use that. Like you said, that Tua, having the optionality to be able to back into Tua, to back into Red. I like to back into Darnold. Zach Wilson is a great option to back into. Now, if you want to use Teddy, if you want to use Jameis or whatever, right? Use the tiebreaker on those guys, you know, when you can have the stack potential, because it's really, you know, especially depending upon your room, QB has to be the weirdest, like draft, you know, environment, but depending upon the room that you're in and the site that you're on. Like sometimes it's like, I did a drafters draft, which I'm doing another one a little bit later today. And I got Sam Darnold with my last pick, and I had like the stack set up and everything. Like it just worked out. I wanted Darnold, and then some other things broke away where I couldn't take him at cost, and he ended up coming back to me in the last round of a 20-round draft. Right? That does like sometimes on DraftKings, I'm like, it's the 14th round and all the quarterbacks are gone. Do I need to take Sam Darnold here? And on the other side, it's like on Underdog sometimes. Yeah, I don't like Ryan Fitzpatrick is there. Like people are showing me screenshots. Like, should I have 2 quarterbacks? Ryan Fitzpatrick is here with my 18th round pick. Should I take him? Quarterback is the weirdest space. So that optionality is really important to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I like knowing that Teddy has won the job to provide some of that extra optionality, because one spot I have found myself in is trying too hard to get, I mean, and this happens, right? This is something you talk about on ship chasing, is trying to get the perfect team where you're like, I'm okay having some dead teams, right? So try and get like, you're picking on the turn and you have T and you have Chase, but you're like, you know what? I'm going to press it to see if I can get Burrow at the 11th pick of the 11th round, and you have no quarterbacks yet. And you're like, if I get Burrow, I'm going to like this team. If I don't get Burrow, I'm going to hate this team. So you're kind of your backdoor stack options are like Crowder, Wilson, one of those shitty Detroit guys, and Jared Goff. Yeah. But like KJ Hamler and Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, that's pretty appealing. That to me, that's about as good as Crowder, Zach Wilson, roughly. I mean, probably you like Hamler's upside better and you like Wilson's upside better. So, you kind of split it. You kind of split it that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. We don't have a lot of those options, right? Like, I mean, there really isn't one for Jameis, I don't think. I guess Troutman, if you want to do that dance, but that's also tight end, and that's a little bit different. A little Jordan Humphrey or something like that. There isn't really anything available for you for Jameis. And like you said, the other ones are hideous. I mean, Sterling Shepard, I have Sterling Shepard, Daniel Jones teams. I have the crowd. I probably have more of the Crowder Wilson thing than I care to admit because of exactly what you just said. Fitzpatrick, De'Ami Brown, I guess, is a relatively
but De'Ami is steamed now. So if you take Fitzpatrick, I mean, sometimes De'Ami might go off the board before Fitzpatrick. So like that was a way. That was a backdoor one. Now, if you want to do that, you might have to take Adam Humphries.
Yeah, which I have had to do. And you want to talk about feeling like you just punted off a team. Like, you're like, I forced a backdoor stack and I had to do it with Adam Humphries. Like, well, what are we even going to win here if Adam Humphries is like a win? So to your point, like a KJ Hamler, Teddy Bridgewater is like actually appealing. The other one that I wanted to get to, it's a perfect transition into some of these probably rookie quarterbacks, because they're the only situations now at quarterback that have not been ironed out are the rookies, right? Mac versus Cam, Lance versus Jimmy, and Fields versus Dalton. Mac, though, seems actually like the one that might be the biggest favorite to win the week 1 job, which is kind of hilarious. And maybe I'm just giving into like the reporting and the Cam COVID thing and all that. But he also does kind of have some of those options, whether it be James, it's not like 18th round backdoor stacks, but James White goes fairly similar to like a Crowder, right? The tight ends are extremely cheap. And then I guess maybe Nelson Aguilar's close, but there's options.
The ideal one is Hunter Henry, Mac Jones, where if you're really stuck, Hunter Henry's like 14th, 15th round now. And then Mac Jones is actually, I drafted a horrible DraftKings team yesterday. I was distracted, and their app does not work. It just, I mean, no disrespect, but it just gets a little bit buggy, and sometimes you're stuck there on the clock and you're trying to make a pick and it won't let you make a pick, especially if it's like 3 seconds left. And what I do when I'm doing these drafts is I take a wide receiver or a tight end and I star the quarterback. Right. Mm-hmm. So that I know, like, especially if I'm doing multiple drafts, I know, I time out in the 5th round. I took Allen Robinson in the 3rd round. So I got Justin Fields in the 5th round. And I was like, okay, so on this, I have to take a second quarterback, but I have to literally do it in the last round. And I took Mac Jones because I was like, just one of these guys, please start for me in week 1. I don't care which one. Just give me 10 points. Yeah, I probably have, I bet at least 5% of my teams out there have something like that happen where like I auto drafted a quarterback too early. I misclicked someone, which is so I guess I'm helping pay the rake a little bit.
Oh, I definitely am, because it always seems to be like in the mornings I do a pretty good job. I'm pretty locked in. I just woke up. I got some caffeine in me. I'm pretty, like you said, you're at the gym or working out or whatever. I'm pretty locked in. I like to do drafts when like I'm cooking dinner or like we make our dogs food and stuff like that. So I'm absolutely distracted, and then like I'm tired because the whole day is over. And and if you, like you said, on DraftKings, if you do it on DraftKings, the text alerts, the push alerts will come like with like 5 seconds left on the clock, and it'll kick you out of not only just like the room, it'll kick you out of like the app. So you gotta hop back in, and it takes forever, right? If you need to get back into an underdog draft, it takes like 2 seconds. If you need to get back into a DraftKings draft, you're never getting back in by the time that you're on the clock. So I think the only reason I have Michael Thomas on DraftKings in like the 7th through 10th round is because I time out all the time on there. But luckily, DraftKings is so bad. It's not that. I don't think. I think.
Yeah, I think my fifth round Justin Fields team is actually live to advance out of my league.
Yeah, they are so bad. But I have that exact same timeout thing. But I've been getting more bullish on Mac, which is not something I would have said at the beginning of the offseason. I certainly would not have said I was going to be bullish on Teddy Bridgewater. But I think we are in a, the market, we've talked about this, has just gotten more efficient, especially on underdog. And so I kind of want to push the limits on my quarterbacks more frequently right now. Like we kind of talked about things that have changed in our drafting strategies last week. And I think that's one of them. I've been going so hard. I heard you talk about your exposures too, like between the rookies and Tua. It's like that's where I'm living, really. The rookies, Tua and Dak. It's like,
those are my 5 most owned quarterbacks. Is the rookies with Tua, not including Mac Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Same for me. And then I have Darnold and Dak, and I think maybe somebody else mixed in there. But anyway, like that's where I've been living already. But now, like the market just continues to get more efficient and more efficient. And so, how do I kind of continue to win? Wide receiver, win running back, win, how do I still get my elite tight ends, all that kind of stuff without giving up too much? Well, now I have more quarterback options.
You got to push it at quarterback now. And also it's helpful now with like different textures of the boards to try and build like some different stacks, like just because you'll get your stacks with different permutations, like try and do your Cowboys Cardinals stacks now with Sony Michel or whatever, just like different styles of teams. Basically it's like what Pete said the other day. It's like doing your 150 where you lock 4 players and then you wheel around the other ones. It's like that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah, because you're still sticking to the same core like tenets of the strategy, right? And like the top however many rounds haven't changed. We still like T. Higgins and we still like CD. We still like all those guys. So we're just going to keep drafting a lot of those guys, right? Still kind of, mixing through or whatever. But now this gives us an opportunity, like take 18th round Tony Jones Jr., right? We're not excited for him, but like what's the difference between him and all these other guys? Mix in Sony, mix in those guys. It helps. Don't be stubborn on, don't keep taking, I'm not taking Darrington Evans in every draft anymore because I have these new options available to me. So only the Latavius thing like kind of reminds me, is there any situation where you think like maybe a guy's going to get cut, or we've seen like the indications on, something we didn't foresee, right? Like we all just assumed Latavius was the locked in number 2. Is there any other situation like that where like we're getting rumblings about like Rashad Penny getting cut, and some of those things that are really jumping out to you to take advantage of in the last 2 weeks?
I mean, the most obvious one is that the Jacksonville Jaguars starting running back is like 50-50 to be Carlos Hyde. Like, I know you all love James Robinson, but I've done this before, right? I've done this with Duke Johnson and Carlos Hyde. I did that same offseason with Damian Williams and Carlos Hyde, where they cut Carlos Hyde, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's out of my life. And then he ran for 1,000 yards for the Texans. Carlos Hyde has taken carries away from Nick Chubb. Carlos Hyde has taken, I got to go look up these old 49ers teams. He has taken away carries from so many running backs that you all think are really good. So 2015 for the 49ers, he was getting carries. Okay, he was getting carries over Mike Davis on that team, funnily enough. But yeah, he's gotten carries over Chubb. He has gotten carries over Mostert. How about this? How's this for a tilt? 240 carries for Carlos Hyde, 105 for Matt Breida, a season where he was averaging like 5.5 yards per touch. Like, I'm just telling you, dude, this is, I just am expecting this at this point. I am expecting Carlos Hyde to like take the first carry for the Jaguars in week 1.
And James Robinson is fine. Like the market is making, like you should have been more excited for Matt Breida and Raheem Mostert and like some of these guys that he held off before, right? They're like potential league winners. James Robinson got every touch on this team. I know that they're going to be more efficient offensively, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to no one has to make that argument. But like he got every running back touch and every running back snap, basically, just to be a top 10 running back. Right. Amongst the year where everybody got hurt, right? CMC got hurt. Saquon got hurt. Zeke, his whole team got hurt. Like just to get in the top 10, he needed every touch. Now, the argument for him isn't even that he gets every touch; it's that he's Mike Davis on the Jaguars, right? He's getting he's playing third downs and he's getting goal line work, and you can't even prove that he's going to get any of that. This team drafted a running back in the first round when James Robinson was great last year. They had him on the team, and they spent a first round pick on Travis Etienne, and they wanted to get and they went out and got Carlos Hyde. Right, they went out and got that. They also brought in what's his name, Dare Ogunbowale, who say whatever you want about him. They've been talking about him as a pass protector all throughout camp.
Well, he was on the team last year, right?
Was he? I thought he.
No, he was on the team. Still... He was on the team last year, and he played a shit ton of special teams, but they never brought him in. Yeah, so he played 14 games. I mean, he barely played. He got 42 touches last year for them.
But he was on the team last year, and he's not gone, and he's a pass protector with a new scheme, right? I'm reciting all these blurbs that I've read about the freaking Jags because it's like mind numbing to read Urban Meyer and all his dunce coaches talk about these players. But the point being, like I'm seeing this dude go in the third, fourth round of these drafts, and it's like, what are we really doing here with this guy? At least with like the Henderson thing. It was like this team drafted him. I know this team also drafted Cam Akers, and he's being backed up by Jake Funk and probably some dusty veteran, right? And Xavier Jones. And this offense is like potential like league winning offense, right? With the Rams. I like the Jags offense. They're not the Rams offense. And the running back value is not the same. And so obviously we're knocking Henderson down, but then we're just going to do the same thing with James Robinson. And who's to say they don't bring somebody in? Right? If Latavius gets cut, Latavius sure seems like if Latavius went to Ohio State, Urban Meyer would absolutely pick up Latavius Murray. Like, so the James Robinson thing is killing me.
Yeah. I just like, and also, I mean, it's a little bit of sour grapes because I had like none of him. Like I had like, like I was taking Rojo over him. I was taking Pollard over him. I'm sure that James Robinson versus Pollard was a decision I had on the clock at some point, and I am positive that I took Tony Pollard instead.
My best, I went back and looked at because I'm trying to keep a spreadsheet of all my teams and stuff, and I have 2 James Robinson underdog Best Ball Mania 2 teams. One is with Cam Akers, and the other one is with Michael Thomas. And so really, really not doing well. That's the point. Is he got more value, but like I don't think you're like ever going to be in a scenario where like, oh no, I don't have 8th round James Robinson.
Well, it will just be if Trevor Lawrence is as good, very, very good, and if they just play him the same way they did last year. If they play him the same way they did last year, you're going to hate your life. You're going to be like,
true.
Great. I got 18% zeros from Travis Etienne. I hope I had a lot of 5 running back Etienne teams, but I know I didn't. I know that a lot of those turned into hyper fragile teams with Tony Pollard as the 3rd running back.
Yeah, it felt so good, right? Oh, look at all this upside. I got CEH and Travis Etienne and Tony Pollard and Alexander Madison or whatever.
Gio Bernard or whatever.
Yeah, and you're scoring like 6 points total at running back. I was trying to think. The other thing that is like this Jamar Chase thing. Are you like I wasn't really high on him, but are you buying this dip? Or
I was super high on him. Like I was taking him at his old cost, so I'm just scooping it up now.
Over T? Were you drafting him over T?
No, I take T first, and for a while you had to take Chase first and then get T coming back. Then it flipped, but now you like every once in a while Chase will go at like the 6.2 or whatever. So yeah, look, if he is a piece of shit domestic abuser, then I'll eat my zeros and whatever. That's fine. And I literally know nothing about what's going on, but it's a combination of that and a combination of him playing like shit in the preseason. Which, like, I don't know. Do you ever remember anything about any wide receiver rookie playing? Like, I don't remember Juju Smith-Schuster in the preseason. I don't remember, Odell didn't play in the preseason. I don't remember any of these guys in the preseason, really.
It doesn't matter. It's just we didn't have it last year, and it's a really, we've never seen this before, right? He opted out, and so everybody is so tethered to this. He hasn't played football in a year and a half. Of course, how could you ever draft him in the 4th or 5th round? It's like, well, he's one of the best wide receiver prospects of all time, and they're going to throw 50 times a game. Like, yeah, I'm pretty excited about this guy. I don't care that he dropped three. It's just like I don't care that Trey Lance has thrown some bad passes, right? Like, there are certain things like again, I think you said it maybe on the Swolecast. It's like a little bit of the performance thing can come in, right? Like there's maybe like 1 to 5% of performance related preseason things that we can draw some conclusions, but like almost all the time, it's absolutely meaningless. We're obviously looking for usage and that kind of,
I want to see what guys are playing with the first team. I don't want to see Michael Carter playing with the Jets 9th stringers. Like I wasn't drafting any Michael Carter before, but now I'm like 14th round. All right, Tevin Coleman, like come on down. Like Michael Carter is like the running back 4 in New York.
Yeah, Ty Johnson. I was drafting a good bit of actually last round Ty Johnson. And so that's another one that's made me feel better. And I'm actually drafting some more Ty Johnson just because I think he's probably better than Tevin Coleman. And it's at least like a 50-50 bet probably between those two guys. And I feel the same. Like I don't think it also might be a decent time to buy Michael Carter if he really starts to fall, just to get some exposure to him, because I don't really have hardly any at all. But the typical bullshit of rookies, like maybe he does start to break out later in the year or something.
No, I don't. I guess I see it, but it feels like his price is like uniquely bad. Like I don't know. So. I can't get there with Michael Carter.
No, he's being treated like like not quite, but like Javonte and ETN were being treated. He wasn't that much cheaper than those guys, and it was solely because with like the ambiguous backfield thing. But like not every 4th round, like he wasn't that highly drafted. He wasn't that good of he's a fine player, whatever. But we're not talking about something like truly special here. And there was zero indications other than everybody gets fluffed, right? In camp. I mean, you think Elijah Moore's Jerry Rice. And I like Elijah Moore, but like you would think Elijah Moore's Jerry Rice with the Jets reports. And so he got a little bit of hype, but we never thought like, oh my God, yeah, we need to take this guy in the 8th round. And I guess that's, that was one of the inefficiencies of the draft market, but I wasn't really on him. I think that about sums it up. I guess one final question. What is the biggest thing you're going to try to correct? Like right now, immediately. You brought up Sutton. I think you brought up
Sutton is one. And like, I have a lot of Giovanni Bernard, but I'd like Giovanni Bernard to be like my 3rd most owned running back, not my 8th most owned running back. Like I want to pretty like round 11. Honestly, I want to start just having the star on Gio and just being like, get him as the running back 3 or 4. Cause Rojo is going to handle all the early down work, but I think the stars are written that Fournette is just like the break glass in case of emergency guy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Love Gio. I'm on the same page with you with Sutton. I wasn't buying in the whatever when he was going the 6th or the 7th, and I was buying Judy. And now I think I drafted Sutton within the last couple of days. And again, I've been mostly on DraftKings or Drafters, but I mean, he's absolutely plummeting on those sites. So I really want to get some exposure to him. The other one, maybe I need to stop listening to Crane because he keeps selling me on all these guys that I didn't like, and I didn't want to draft, but I do think he's at least keeping my brain in check. I was like all out on DJ Chark, like way out on DJ Chark. Like I liked Visca. I was, mixing in a little Marvin Jones and some last round Colin Johnson, and obviously RIP ETN. But Chark is the same thing as Sutton. He's not as good, but like full plummet, right? 7th round pick, got the Silva bump early in the offseason, right? He was a sexy, 6th, 7th round pick. And now everybody's all out. And I was all out too, but we're getting you're going to get the cheapest DJ Chark of the year now. So it's the time I want to buy. And I'm just trying to get I like the Jaguars, like staff, the Jaguars offense. So I want to have some DJ Chark.
Yep, I'm on board with that one. I guess another one would be, it's not cheap, but I want to at least get to field average on Antonio Brown because I have none. Wow. I've got like 2% Antonio Brown, and I just am starting to get this feeling that Brady is going to try and pepper him. So maybe not even to 8%, but I'd like to even get to like 5% on him, which means I got to start taking him over Hardman sometime. Well, fuck, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't. That would be my advice to you guys, but I don't think I can follow my own advice.
It's the price, dude. It's the price. How do you take him over? He goes in the Hardman, Fuller, Waddle. Like, he just goes in this range of all these exciting young players that have, like, I guess maybe AB has real upside that I'm just not. But I mean, I'm just really finding it hard to see. Obviously, an injury would help. But even with an injury, like, he's still competing with a lot of good football players. You know, I have not drafted him one time. Maybe a timeout or a misclick, but I just can't see it. I just can't take AB, and maybe I'll just be stubborn on that one.
Yep. I think that's probably where I'm going to end up too.
All right. What do you got? What do you got going on the rest of the day coming up? We're football.
Yeah, I got
before we know it.
The cheat sheet that we use to draft the main event teams, me and my buddies, I am working on that article right now. So you'll literally be able to see the sheet that I draft, lots of high stakes fantasy football drafts on. I always like to share that. And then, we'll just keep doing the show, take casts, all that good stuff.
Yeah, we talked about it, I think, last week, but I'll be interested to see. I think that, I feel very confident they're going to drop, like, Underdog, especially, is going to drop like an in-season contest. And NBA is also getting very close. They're going to be, they're probably waiting, they're like itching to drop the NBA, but they don't want to, have people run to the NBA contest away from like Best Ball Mania. So I'm really interested to see where those, some kind of different things to talk about. Only thing I will plug, in an hour or so, I am going to be going live on a drafters draft. I like those have been kind of fun. I know you've been drafting on Drafters, a different platform. It's fun to do the different format. And then tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, the man himself, Evan Silva, is coming on stream, and we're going to draft a big dog team on Underdog. Evan's only a high roller now. He doesn't play with us peasants in Best Ball Mania.
Big dogs only.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing a big dog draft. But for Davis and for all these fun people that we talked about, and for the Duncy Jaguars, we will see you guys next.